Good morning again. Welcome everybody. My name is Lisa Much. I am the Communications and Capacity Building Director at the Ohio CDC Association. And I am so excited to welcome you here today for the Real Estate for Social Good, licensing nonprofit agents at CDCs and land banks to reduce costs and generate unrestricted revenue. This session is being recorded. So if you don't want to be on camera or risk that, you can turn your camera off. But everybody that registered will receive a copy of it sometime before the week is over, and which I guess would be today or tomorrow. I think you all came in muted. So if you have a question during the presentation, please type it in the chat and we will get through it throughout the session. We have deliberately built in a lot of time for questions today. So don't be shy, we're gonna have tons of questions. Tons of question time, sorry. And then as the last few people seem to be getting settled, sorry, I want to share something that's fairly recent for Ohio CDC. I think it came out last week. There is another event we're doing today at 3 o'clock that I want to draw your attention to in case you can make it. We are partnering with ECDI to offer the Ohio CDC SBA Prime Capacity Building Initiative. So this is basically a collaboration that's goal is to build the capacity of micro business development organizations that are also Ohio CDC members. So in this program, which will cover some amount of time in 2021, there is a cohort where you can receive $5,000 grants for your micro business development work. There'll be a ton of webinars. There's some peer learning, all sorts of fun, good things like that. I believe there is a focus on organizations in rural areas and in or serving opportunity zones. I'm not fully clear on the specificity of that. So if you feel like that fits you, like you do micro business work or you want to do micro business work and you're rural or in or near an opportunity zone, I would encourage you to check out the info session today or see if you can get someone to attend it. Here's the link in the chat. And they should be able to answer all your questions there. But I think that's it. I really appreciate all the people that have been introducing themselves in the chat. And I think rejoicing over the sun. It's good. Spring is coming. Spring is here. Summer's coming. This is great. All right. So with that, I would like to kind of shift focus to get us over to talking about real estate for social good. The model we're going to talk about today provides neighborhood stabilization through new sustainable homeownership and generates unrestricted revenue to enhance community development in conjunction with offering homebuyer education and pre-purchase counseling to community residents. So today, we have Sonya Edwards, who's Executive Director and Broker at Esop Realty, or Branches Real Estate, Dennis L. Roberts, Director of Programs and Property Management for the Cuyahoga Land Bank, and William A. Willis, Economic Development Manager for Burton Bell Carr Development, which is a CDC in Cleveland. Sonya will have a few slides to discuss the program, and then Dennis and William are going to talk about their perspective from their organizations. And then there will be a lot of time for the nitty-gritty questions. But at this point, I am delighted to pass it over to Sonya. Sonya?
Sorry, I was trying to get the screen up at the same time as I was trying to unmute. Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining. I know we are all bombarded with so many Zoom and virtual meetings that it's hard to select which ones that we go to. So I do appreciate you choosing to spend your time with us as we give you a little bit of background about what the model is and how we got to it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to start with just again, who's going to be presenting today. It's myself and Dennis and William. I'm so happy that they decided to join and are willing to share their perspectives, because I think their perspectives are going to be critically important to those of you that have joined today. So just the agenda, we're going to, as Lisa mentioned, just give you a brief history of Esop and the evolution of Branch's real estate. I'll give you an overview of the model and why we created it, and then again, hear those great perspectives and how it's working for the Cuyahoga County Land Bank in Burton Belcar. So just the history to kind of take you back for those that are not familiar with Esop. We are in Cleveland, Ohio. We were founded in 1993 by Inez Killingsworth. And really what we were doing at that time is we were doing organizing on the east side of Cleveland, and Esop stood for East Side Organizing Project. And how we got started is Inez noticed that there were wild dogs roaming her neighborhood, and that the kids couldn't walk to school, and that the older adults couldn't walk to the store or anywhere else for that matter. So she started knocking on some of her neighbors' doors and asked them to join voices with her to go down to City Hall and make change. And that's exactly what they did. They went down and got some ordinances changed, and some dog catchers were hired, and that alleviated the dog problem. And Inez got a little excited and said, what else can we do? There's power in numbers. What else can we do? And so she developed some small neighborhood groups who really looked at the issues in their neighborhoods and how to solve them together, and just some really roots organizing. But what she started to notice in the late 90s and early 2000s were many of those faithful members who had been coming to those neighborhood groups started not coming anymore. And when she started to investigate, and the others along with her found out that they were foreclosed on. And this was very early, before the crisis. And so she started to put some advocacy work together and started doing some organizing around the foreclosure efforts. And that really positioned us as an agency to be able to intervene against the foreclosure crisis. And in 2008, we went statewide with 10 offices, helping all 88 counties. And since 2005, Esop has assisted over 55,000 homeowners prevent foreclosure. But what we also found was we were being very reactive in our delivery and our services. Everything we were doing to help homeowners at a time of crisis was very reactive. So we started to look at our data, and we started to look at our programs and to see what else could we do. And we noticed when we looked at all of our data across the state that no matter where we were, 40% of the people we were helping prevent foreclosure were 55 and older. At a time when they should have been close to paying their mortgage off, they were the ones, in fact, who were at risk of losing those homes. And so we got some funding in 2013 to hold listening tables with the older adults in our communities to find out what were their real needs and what would help them have financial stability and housing stability. And so in 2014, we launched our Senior Financial Empowerment Initiative, and that has grown into a robust suite of services that really does help us address the housing and financial needs of our clients. At the same time, we also, in our attempt to be proactive, started doing homebuyer education classes, pre-purchase counseling, and some other financial counseling to really, like I said, try to help on the front end and not just focus our efforts on the foreclosure work. So in that work with helping new homeowners, we found that we would sit with them and we would get them ready, and we would tell them, stay around 70,000. That's really what you can afford. That's what the budget looks like to take everything into consideration. But they would go out and get their pre-approval from a bank, and no fault of the bank has to have guidelines on how they do pre-approvals, but they were looking at, debt to income ratios, gross income, just as they do now to get that pre-approval. We were looking at the entire budget. So they'd get a pre-approval for 120, and then they would purchase at 120, and we would see them back in our office when they couldn't afford that a payment as time went on. And so we started to talk about nonprofit real estate agencies. Are they real? Could they happen? I've been in real estate for 25 years. So at that time, I had a small real estate company with my broker, and we decided that we were going to close that and open Ohio's first nonprofit real estate agency. So we did have the help, and I'll talk a little bit about this in a few minutes, of an agency in San Diego who had done this very well. Community Housing Works is the neighborhood CHW that helped us really stand this up. But we struggled with some things that I'll share with you. In 2017, we had a merger, and Esop and Esop Realty became subsidiaries of the Benjamin Rose Institute on Aging, which actually provided us a lot more opportunities to have additional services to continue to support and help, particularly our older adults, but all of our clients. And we, in 2019, introduced the CDC and land bank real estate model. And I'll talk about what happened in those 2 years that got us to that. And currently we're in the process of rebranding Esop Realty as Branches Real Estate for Social Good and expanding our footprint. So just to set the stage a little bit and help you kind of understand the subsidiary relationship and how we work in tandem with both Esop and Benjamin Rose. So Branches is a subsidiary of Esop, who is in fact a subsidiary of Benjamin Rose. So really we're both subsidiaries of Benjamin Rose, but our work is very close in tandem with Esop. So Branches' mission, and this is the beginning mission that we're working on, maybe tweaking a little bit, but it's to help people transcend poverty by making the dream of homeownership affordable, available, and sustainable for more members of our community, while simultaneously contributing to neighborhood stabilization. If we're helping people move into sustainable housing, then the outcome of that is going to be neighborhood stabilization. Esop's mission is to help adults in all stages of life achieve and maintain financial wellness and housing stability. And Benjamin Rose supports caregivers and empowers people of all ages to age well through research, consumer responsive services, and client advocacy. So the first thing I want to talk about is just how our model looks and who we are. So we were the first nonprofit full service real estate agency. And believe me, we got a lot of raised eyebrows. How can you be a real estate agency and be nonprofit? And really how we do that is we focus on missions and not commissions. So our agents are not paid commissions. They're either paid a salary or they're paid hourly. And this does a couple things for us. This ensures that our clients receive the same level of service, whether they're buying or selling a $40,000 or a $400,000 home. We can provide the same services because it's really hard as an agent who's commissioned to provide that same service on the amount of commission to $40,000 sale as they do a $400,000. It also helps prevent any upselling. You know, our agents they're going to get the same amount of money no matter what you buy. So there's no, I'm going to say this because I've been doing it for a long time. I don't think agents would ever intentionally do that, or most of them would not intentionally do that. But, you know, subconsciously, you know, there could be some upselling. And then commissions from transactions do fund our programs. And they fund many different programs. So we have a few things that we focus on. And like I said, that first time homeowner is one of those focuses, helping them purchase that first home, but also assisting older adults to know their housing options to help them be sustainable in their homes, or if need be, to gracefully transition out of their last homes. It's really important to us to provide our homeowners, to empower them and equip them with the tools to really thrive in their neighborhoods and not just live in their houses. And what I mean by that is we want them to volunteer, we want them to vote, we want them to use their library, the shop local. We want them to know all of the resources in their community because we think that's a huge contributing factor to sustainability for neighborhoods and for that family who moved into that home. One of the other things that we do is we preserve communities by planting trees. And we do that by planting one tree for every home that's sold. But we do this as an annual event in a specific location. And we work with other agencies who know much more about trees than we do to help us then maintain those trees once they're planted. So this is, you know, a really focused effort and what we hope that people will start to know us for. Just to talk a little bit about Esop's homeownership programs that really are what we're working most closely with. Esop has a lot of different programs, and it would take a long time to go through all of those today, but welcome any of you to reach out and we'll be happy to share those with you. But the homeownership programs start with our homeownership workshops. We're really big on getting education into the hands of our clients and our consumers. And so we do homebuyer education. We continue to do that. We call it the Know Before You Buy. We do an Aging in Place series, Know Your Housing Options. And this was developed, we've been working in partnership with Shaker Heights, with the city of Shaker Heights and with Kamla. And we found that trying to solve for some of the property tax and housing violation issues that some of the older adults in their particular neighborhood were facing, we found that many of them do need to transition. And that's a very hard conversation, or they need other options that we couldn't necessarily provide. And so we created a workshop series that really helps look at how to assess the home for safety, for accessibility, affordability. It also helps look at what are those other options to use your equity to stay in your home. So things like reverse mortgages, lines of credit, equity loans, single purpose loans. And then we do look at all of the various housing options that are out there for older adults. And then we talk about the benefits and the taxes and the legal issues that can come about, whether they stay or if they were to sell, what should they know? And then we are in the process of developing a home seller education class. There's so much effort put in helping people get into their homes. They might be the first generation in their family to ever own a home, and they don't really know what to do once they're there. So post-purchase is important, as well as what do I do if I want to sell? What should I know going into that process? And then we are, our next launch is going to be a new construction class. With inventory being the way it is, a lot of people are shifting more and more towards new construction, and we think it's important to give them those tools. And then all of our workshops, we try to partner with some kind of counseling one-on-one. So give them the education, but then help them one-on-one put that education into practice. So we have pre and post purchase counseling, as well as transition and rental counseling. So in the rebranding, if you see branches and what does that mean? For us, this is kind of how we conceptualize the idea and what drove the tree and branches as a name. So the roots really represent our communities and the people that we serve. And this goes all the way back to our days of organizing, right? The trunk serves as the bridge to bring homeowners the services that they need and the resources they need through Benjamin Rose Institute on Aging, through Esop and all of our collaborating partners. And branches represent the canopy and the shelter of the tree. And for us, this is where we come in as branches real estate to help make the dream of homeownership available, affordable, and sustainable. So let's talk about the model now, because I think that's what you all came here to hear. So sorry that we needed to give you that background, but for those of you that didn't know us, I thought it was important to know a little bit more of the why before we got to this why. So in 2014, when we started the Realty, when we worked with CHW out of San Diego, they were extremely helpful. But one of the things we didn't consider was their average commission earned was over $6,500. And we were struggling to hit a $2,000 average for commissions. So the first thing that we struggled with was staffing. And one is the cost. It takes a lot of time to assist a client to purchase a home or sell a home. And to do it right, it takes even more time. And so it was costing us more per hour than the commissions we were earning. So we were upside down in a model that we thought was going to be the social enterprise that would drive revenue. We were upside down from the beginning. We struggled with the experience level. We struggled with who in the staffing model. We tried just out of school, freshly licensed, and thought we could bring them into the nonprofit world. But they went to school because they thought they were going to be instantly rich in real estate, which is not true, by the way, but that's what the mindset was. So that wasn't the right fit. We tried the other end of the spectrum, someone who was, getting ready to retire after 30 years in the business. And that you can't teach an old dog new tricks is very true. You can't unlearn what you know in real estate when you've been doing it that long, and we just really struggled. So we tried middle of the road, energized, motivated agents, and they lost the motivation when we removed the commissions. And so staffing was a huge, huge barrier for us when we launched, and struggled with it for quite a few years. Capacity was another issue. Because we couldn't get the agents staffed, we didn't have the capacity to serve our pipeline of clients that were coming in through homebuyer education, or sellers who maybe was an older adult who needed to transition, or someone from our foreclosure work who had exhausted all other options, but we didn't have the capacity to even take on all of our clients. And then in this model, we really needed more focused neighborhood specialists. We, to do a good job, need to know the neighborhoods that we're working in as a real estate agent, and especially when we're trying to really plug our clients into those neighborhood resources. We can't know, no one agent can know every neighborhood in Cleveland, for example. It was just impossible. So we needed some more focused neighborhood specialists who could bring that expertise to our agency. So I started thinking, who is like-minded and mission-driven, who uses real estate professionals already, who knows their neighborhood better than anyone else, who's passionate about community revitalization. And that's how this model was born. It's CDCs and land banks. That's the answer to every one of those questions. That's who it is. But now, how do we make it work? We figured out who it is, how do we then make it work? So what we do is we license real estate agents who are employees at CDCs or land banks. So staff that already work there. We haven't had anyone bring anyone new on for this position. They've actually licensed people who've already been in mostly their housing positions. We get them licensed. This helps us link our missions and our services. It strengthens both our services and our partners' services, gives us the neighborhood specialist, and it generates unrestricted revenue and reduces cost. So I'm going to go a little bit more into that in the next slide. But how it works, the basic workings of it is that Branches, as the broker, receives a small flat fee from each transaction. And that flat fee is staggered based on the price of the home, but it's not like a percentage. It's a flat fee that's tiered. But the bulk of the commission goes to the CDC or the land bank. Notice I have agent in brackets there, and this is really important. It is against the law in Ohio for a licensed broker or brokerage to pay someone who's not licensed. So I cannot pay the money for the commission that would come in on that transaction to the CDC or the land bank directly. I actually have to pay that commission to the agent, and then it is the agent and the CDC or the land bank who are working out how that works between them, and each one is a little bit different. Here's some of the different ways that the model has worked, and it's very adaptable to whoever may need it for what they want. So for example, the land bank, the Cuyahoga County Land Bank, they only list their own properties and they don't represent buyers. And was their choosing. This is not anything that's dictated by us. So when in that situation, there actually is no exchange of commission from the broker to the agent, because what we do is on the commission side for the brokerage and for the agent, we just reduce it down to the flat fee that would go to the broker. And the rest is a savings that's seen in the transaction. So they're saving commission, not necessarily earning a commission. Burton Bell Carr, on the other hand, they list their own properties, so it's very similar to the land bank, but also William represents buyers and sellers, and he's not bound by any service area. Burton Bell Carr was generous enough to let William work wherever he wants to, and if he has the time, and some of it is on his own time. Metro West, they list their own properties. and they represent buyers and sellers, but they stick more to their service area so that they're having the community impact that they set out to have. And we have others that I'll talk about in a little bit, but this is just kind of how the three of these agencies have adopted the model. So what does it cost to get licensed and to have an agent on staff? The average class cost is about $1,200. The Ohio Association of Realtors and the Ohio Association of Community Colleges linked up about 2 years ago. So you actually may be able to find those classes much cheaper than the $1,200, but I gave you Hondros's average price right now with the reductions that are happening because of COVID. That's about what it costs. Time-wise, you can do it in a few weekends. You can do it on your own, at your own pace through their virtual classes. You can do it a few evenings for a few weeks. You can do it for a few daytime. I think 2 weeks you can have it done if you did daytime. It's 120 classroom hours to get licensed, and it costs $60 to apply to take the exam. And then annually there's some expenses, and those are the board membership fees that run about $600 depending on which board you belong to, and multiple service fees. Again, it's going to depend on which one you belong to, but in our it's about $350 for the year. So you're looking at about $1,000 a year in annual fees, and other expenses. The cycle for license renewal and continuing education is every 3 years, and it costs about $200 for that renewal. And I say about $100 for continuing education. It depends. There's also a lot of free classes that you can catch here and there. So that's just an average for you to see. Just to show you some examples of how the revenue has worked and the savings has worked. So Cuyahoga County Land Bank has closed 14 transactions, earning a total commissions of just above $62,000. And that was a cost savings of about $43,000 to the land bank. And I say savings there because, again, we're not exchanging money on that. That's the savings and commissions that they've saved had they have gone with another agency. And the broker fees for those transactions were $19,000. And on a lot of our deals with the land bank, I actually co-list typically with Dennis. And so the commission, our fees a little bit higher than what we typically would do with someone else, because that's how we've structured it. And we have another 3 properties pending closing right now to bring an additional just above $15,000 in commission. Burton Belcar has closed 9 transactions, just about $35,000. And this is in the past year or so, a little over a year. $35,000 is the commissions that have come in for Burton Belcar. Just about $22,000 of that was commissions earned. So that was true revenue earned that we actually had to pay to William, and almost $6,000 in savings on their properties that they listed. So in total, almost $28,000 savings in revenue to Burton Belcar, and our broker fees to branches was $7,100. So I thought this was important just to kind of show you how the model works differently for each agency and what the numbers could look like. So this is who we have on our team right now. William Willis, who you're going to hear from in just a little bit from Burton Belcar. We also have Michelle Thomas from Slavic Village, and Casey Petratus, who's with University Circle, but Casey actually started with us back when he was with the Cuyahoga County Land Bank. Bridget Holmes is our only other internal branches real estate agency. She's actually just with me. She's on the call today as well. Dennis Roberts, who you'll hear from. Andrea Bruno, also with Cuyahoga County Land Bank. And then Chris Harsh and Kevin DeLeon are both with Metro West. And then Landon Klein is our newest agent, and he is with Trumbull Neighborhood Partnership or the Trumbull County Land Bank. And they've got some exciting ways that they plan on using the model as well. And at this time, I'm actually going to kick it over to Dennis and to William. I'll let them introduce themselves and talk a little bit about how the model's helped them and how they've used it.
Are you on sharing the screen, Sonya? Oh, there we go. All right, wonderful. Well, first, thank you. Appreciate Lisa, Sonya, you guys inviting us to share our experience with branches with the group. Hopefully you get something out of it. I have found the relationship to be very, very beneficial to me personally, and more importantly to the Cuyahoga Land Bank, at least in 3 basic areas. 1, with respect to cost savings, 2, continuity, and I also think there's some strategic value, which I want to discuss momentarily. With regard to cost savings, I think Sonya covered it well. I mean, the bottom line is, I think we've saved roughly 40 grand over a number of properties that we have renovated and sold with branches, which is a pretty big deal. You can renovate a house in many cases, or at least partially renovate a house with 40 grand. And the cost has been pretty predictable because it's a flat fee. I mean, it's tiered, but it makes it easier for us to develop our performance and kind of know exactly what we're going to end up spending in that area. And I can't overemphasize how important it is for us to be able to save money, because we're then able to put that money back into our various programs. In some respects, I always say the land bank, at least here, we have 2 separate personalities. On one level, we're capitalists and we're opportunists, and we try to make money when we can. But on the other level, we're just like your typical nonprofit in that we're subsidizing a lot of activity. We got a lot of lost leaders, and we're trying to do what we can for the community. So it's a little bit of both. So cost savings is critical. The second area that I think, our relationship with branches has been critically important is in the area of continuity. As branches has grown up and emerged and continues to build its brand, we have been doing the same thing with Land Bank Homes. And as an example, we've been able to put together a couple of things, which I think are pretty robust at this point. With all our renovations, we produce, in effect, a little digital magazine, shows before and after, which is quite sophisticated. A Matterport, one of those things where you can kind of travel around the house, tour, along with a Facebook Live session that we've done each and every time. And it's matured, and we're able to focus on that because we got a certain amount of continuity with branches. We're not guessing, what our real estate agent is good at, what they're interested in, what they're effective at, because we sort of got a rhythm and we know each other, and that's important. The other aspect for us that's critical is, with regard to continuity, is communication. For us, we're a good sized organization, a little slightly bureaucratic, but we're working on that. But being able to communicate effectively is important. When an offer comes in, process and the removal of conditions, the back and forth, knowing, how even offers are going to be presented, because we deal with multiple, and we still deal with multiple agents, and even the way they present the offer can be different. Not knowing what's important to us can be different. And because branches handles the bulk of our listings, it makes our communication quicker, more effective, and ultimately saves time and money because you're not wasting staff time. The third area that I think the relationship has been beneficial for us is in strategic value. Branches is very similar, Esop is very similar to us in the sense that they're for profit in quotes, but with a purpose. They want to make money, but they want to take that money or take that profit and use it to help the community. And that's important in a number of ways. For example, if you need research, which I constantly call Sonya, her team, to let us know probably demographic information about a given community or a appropriate strategy, you can get that without being charged every single time. And that's important. When you deal with agents, you're just one of many. You're not that important to them typically. And, it's hard to get reliable information because their focus is largely transactional and monetary. I like to work with people where it's transactional, monetary, and there's some overlapping mission. So, when they're successful, you're successful, and you got more confidence in the information that they provide to you. The second area where it's helpful with regard to overlapping mission is branches really has a pipeline of people, as Sonya alluded to earlier, that they're essentially preparing for home ownership. Where this is important to us is as we continue to evolve and emerge, it has affected the type of product that we're making available, whether it's the type of renovation or in the area of new construction. As an example, one of the things, we're also pretty heavy in new construction space as well. Just as an example, we're building a home, 2 homes actually, that are aging in place, first floor living. Part of that decision to do that project was communication with branches as to what they thought the market would absorb and might make sense. Another example of that is that we built 2 homes in Maple Heights via modular construction and the ranches. Again, the introduction of new products. So, you know, but for the demographic information and other research, we may or may not have taken on the challenge of putting new products into the market. And I think it's, at least in Cleveland, I think the ability and the willingness to take on new products and innovation is even more important, because as the market tightens and there's less and less builders, there's obviously a issue with regard to getting good subs. You know, builders have a high risk aversion. You know, people don't want to take risk with new products. Why should they? And you don't need to. So if entities like ours, CDCs, land banks, et cetera, don't do it, in many cases, it just won't be done. And you'll have parts of the market that are just underserved, which isn't good. My final comment is related to COVID in a sense. You know, one of the things that I sense that's going to occur as a result of the COVID crisis is that because of disruption in, you know, the supply chain, not just lumber prices, but there's disruptions all over, prices are going through the roof. And, you know, it may not be an issue in many cases because it's a seller's market, but for that middle market or the lower market, it's a big issue because you can never get that alignment. You know, you've always had the pressure. You know, so cost, you know, any cost savings you can get is important. It's going to be critical because we're seeing it all over, particularly in the area of new construction and in renovation as well. I mean, even to get windows now, it's taking like 3 weeks, or get your appliance in, it's taking like 3 weeks. So, and that all costs money because you got holding costs, insurance, et cetera. So I say all to say, particularly in this environment with COVID, saving money and working with organizations that share a similar mission or purpose, I think is even more important than it normally would be. So I've had nothing but a positive experience, frankly, and dealing with branches, and it just makes my job easier. And saving a little money is a good thing as well. And I happen to like Sonya too, so that makes it a little bit more fun. So that's it, and I'll be here for questions if anybody has any for me. I think next, oh, I forgot to introduce myself, but I think you guys can read my bio, but I'm basically the director of housing at the land bank, and I basically over everything that has to do with housing or development. So that's me. I think William is next, right? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Dennis. Good morning, everybody. My name is William Willis. I'm the Economic Development Manager with Burton Bell Carr Community Development Corporation. Sending greetings from our Executive Director and Secretary of the Ohio CDC Association, Joy Johnson. This, like Dennis said, this has been a great experience for us as well. And I think back just to the beginning for me when our previous Executive Director approached me about the idea. And the number one thing was just to have access to MLS, the multiple listing service, to have access to market data and trends to understand, you know, what's going on in the market, right? And so that we can fairly competitively, you know, market some of our renovations so that we can sustain the market value in our neighborhoods. You know, previous to being licensed, Burton Bell Carr, I mean, we own a lot of properties on the east side of Cleveland, which we've continued to acquire and dispose of on an ongoing basis. And that wasn't a function, whereas we needed to have a real estate agent or be licensed. But, you know, once this opportunity came about, it became an add-on, right? This is an addition to some of the things that we already do within development. And so, you know, just kind of think about, you know, the work that we do, the services, the programs that we provide to residents in the neighborhoods. I mean, we build relationships, and I'm sure like many other CDCs, those relationship components are greatly important and have value to them. And so, you know, when you get those random calls, you know, people come in and say, I want to talk to somebody about, I want to purchase a house, right? You know, I would say that is probably the most time consuming of it, that upfront work, just having those conversations. But, you know, having this partnership with with branches and Esop, we know who we can turn to, right? And so in many cases, it's not just about the home buying aspect, the transactional aspect of purchasing a home, but the preparation, the home buyer education, the preparation, the understanding, the knowledge base of what it takes to become a homeowner. And so within our mission, that's definitely something that we push for and we advocate for. You want it for as many people as possible. I mean, that's a way to sustain a neighborhood through home ownership. And so, we really, we encourage people to take it on. And so we have those upfront conversations, but I mean, we try to get people connected to Esop, and, Sonya didn't really elaborate on it, but that home buyer education process, in my opinion, I think it's very streamlined. It's relatively quick. The connectivity with financial counselors. I mean, you can get people on their way, right? And whether that happens immediately or it takes a little bit of time, I think their services, I mean, just are invaluable in how they prepare people for home ownership. And then the aspiration is, through that relationship building, is that, people come back and they choose to work with, trusted people over at the CDC who can, help them and looking to purchase a home, right? And so that's something that we've seen happen, and it does hold value. I'll talk about the just when we do our own renovations, just the communication, as Dennis had mentioned. I mean, obviously the executive director or key decision maker who's able to sign off on documents, you have access to them. Whether you yourself are the project manager or have worked with the project manager, you just know more and more about the house and what has gone into it. So that's something that's really beneficial to us, is we can keep things sort of in-house, internal, as opposed to outsourcing. I mean, that's what you do in a sense when you hire a real estate agent. You sort of outsource. You have to fix those commission costs into the actual sale price. And so, with the internal model, however it's worked out, you can either keep those with the agency or with the agent, which is very motivating for having that additional source of income, if you will. And again, lastly, I'll just say, being a licensed realtor, I mean, it really expands on just relationships overall, whether it's people in the community, people involved within the transaction. I mean, we've, over the years, have built a very strong relationship with our title company, our preferential title company, but I mean, we're exposed to others as well. And so, we have multiple, title agencies that we can turn to. Just recently, I mean, we're doing a LIHTC project. And so, I built some relationships with a home inspection company, which we had to turn back to. And, they were able to give us some favorable rates. So that's a huge cost savings for us as well. And then, financial lenders as well, just opening up more relationships. And so, I'll just close by saying this has been great for us at BBC. I mean, just on all levels within real estate. I highly recommend anybody who may be interested in pursuing the model to ask questions and take advantage of it. But it's been really great.
Thank you, Dennis and William, for your perspective. I think it probably helped a lot of people with questions that might already even be coming in. But I'll just finish up with a couple of things, and then we'll start to get to some of those questions. When we first launched this, one of the things that we thought about was, can you imagine a team of real estate agents who are joined together through a network of CDCs and land banks that are really committed to missions and not commissions, and being able to revitalize neighborhoods one home at a time? And that still just rings true with us. That's what we vision, and that's what we hope to see. And before we go to questions, just so I don't miss the opportunity to thank Lisa and the Ohio CDC Association for giving us this opportunity to share this model with everyone today. So I wanted to do that now, and thank William and Dennis as well for bringing their important perspectives to the conversation. And I think with that, Lisa, we're ready to open it up to some questions.
Great. Fantastic. We did get a bunch of questions that came in, but before we answer those, I want to encourage everyone, we've been sitting here for 48 minutes, to just like stretch, right? Maybe stand up if you're so inclined. Just because this is really good and important to do, right? And I will start with one of the biggest questions that I got a little more privately is, yes, if you registered for this, you're going to get the recording today or tomorrow. And with that, let me pull through. I'm just going to try to go through these as we got them. So I think Tom asked, what percentage of time, Dennis and William, do you spend in the branches model compared to your other responsibilities?
I can start by answering that. So when we list our own properties, obviously that's time we spend during our workload. A lot of my duties deal with acquisition of property, so it's not that difficult. Listing is far easier than representing buyers. I mean, it's just a lot of communication that goes into it. You're not really spending time having to travel to go show, going across the city, to allow people who are looking to purchase into houses. So not a lot of time, I would say. I mean, just maybe a few hours within the transaction, but I mean, within the last year, I mean, it's not been difficult at all because it's such a hot market. So not much time spent on the listing side.
Yeah, for me, it's not me directly, but for our organization, it's not much different in terms of how much time we spend with branches versus other agents. I find that it's just easier in a lot of ways working with branches because they know us better. It probably is a little bit savings of time, but not significant, but it certainly is easier. They know our flow, they know our communication, they know our rhythm, which is helpful.
Thank you. There is a request. I would love to see an example of a single home through the whole transaction. Can you provide that? And I don't know if that means if you want that walked through verbally or if you mean something else by that. Courtney. Whatever way possible, she says. What do you think, Sonia?
Sure, we can do both. I can get something over to you to kind of talk through. I'm happy to walk through. We'll use the land bank, for example, because we've talked a lot about that, and would be with any of our CDC partners who are listing their own properties. So it's probably the easiest in the model that most people want to start with. So what happens is generally I get a request from the CDC to prepare a cost market analysis. And so I I pull the comparables. I'm looking to see what this property should be priced at. I then share that with Dennis and his staff. They take it to their meetings and they decide on the price. Once we get to that place, we prepare the listing documents. We plan for a live virtual Facebook tour of the home to happen simultaneously at the same day we list the property. Dennis has been gracious enough because in his branding, he wants everything to look very similar. He actually has a photographer that goes out and does the Matterport pictures, the live tour piece for us to put on the multiple listing service. I give him the same documents that he would fill out for any other real estate agent, which is, the lead-based paint addendum, the listing documents, as well as a property disclosure. That's all completed and provided back to me. I put it into the multiple listing service for us. At the same time, his team goes out and does that live tour. I handle all of the scheduling of all of the showings, unless I have an alarm issue, I might contact them, but otherwise I'm handling the bulk of all of those things. And when offers come in, I am organizing them and preparing them the best that I can, usually with a graph document that says these are all of the offers. This is the net. This is what they're asking for. This is the closing date. This is, inspections. I'm laying everything out for them to be able to really look at. I usually review it with them. Often they go back to their team to make a decision. They let me know which offer they would like to accept. They sign everything. We get it over. Sometimes there's some more negotiating in there, just depends. And then I'm the one who's from that point making sure inspections happen on time, that we get the releases of contingency after inspections happen. Things are going well with the title company. Dennis's team is also working with the title company. They prepare their own deeds, so he's working with them on that end. And when that property closes, I should say too, when we put them in the multiple listing service, we never want a property to not have a similar commission. You know, there's no standard in commissions. It's against the law to even say that. A similar commission to what agents are used to seeing. So they always offer 3% to the selling agent. So if I'm going to say Howard Hanna agent or Keller Williams agent sells that property, they're still going to get their 3%. So there's not a lot of cost savings on that side, but you don't want the property not to be incentivized to be shown. You don't want to put a low commission on that side. But if we sell it, we do lower the commission to our flat rate on our side as well. So then from there, goes to the title company, goes through all of the things that must happen to get us to closing. And once it closes on these transactions, complete escrow instructions that says pay a flat fee of X amount to Branches Real Estate, and the cost savings is seen on the HUD settlement statement on their end. And we exchange keys with the other agent and close the deal.
Thank you. Tons of questions coming in. This is great. Keep on coming. Do you need a broker's license for the agency?
Yes, so I have the broker's license. So in order for this model to work, if someone was to go on their own, you have to have a broker. So I am the broker. Our brokerage is Branches Real Estate, and then William, Dennis, and the other agents that we showed you are all licensed under Branches Real Estate.
Great. And then they're wondering if this model would work with a community land trust.
Dennis, can you speak on that a little bit more? I think it would, but
I really can't. So I don't want to say something that's inaccurate. So I'm not sure whether it can or cannot.
I would say if you are interested in doing this and you're a land trust, we're going to share everyone's contact info and maybe talk to Sonya one-on-one and get more kind of that worked out.
I think Gus might be able to help us on some of that legality piece, and then we may have to reach out to the division to see on our end. But I think there's some things we could look at and at least explore, but I'm not certain either.
Let's see. There's a question about it being used for commercial real estate. Can you use it for such, or if not, do you know of another model?
Absolutely. So actually, Metro West has already done some transactions that were commercial. And so we are a full service real estate agency, so we can do commercial or residential. And some of the CDCs are more focused on commercial because that's more of what they're trying to do in their community. So yes, it can be commercial or residential.
Great. And I'm excited. There's people like wanting to reach out to Sonya in the chat too. This is perfect. Do you know if the USDA 502 direct home loan program has ever been used in conjunction with the model?
Yes, it has. And just a little bit of history. That's my roots right there. My first 15 years in real estate was 90% USDA 502. We did from application to finish. That's really what I learned on, and don't do as much of it now because we're in Cuyahoga County, but I live in Portage County where USDA is an option. I just closed a deal with USDA Direct here not too long ago. So yes, it is a great model. And the homebuyer education through us, if you don't already have it, which is virtual, does meet the requirements for their loans as well. But yes, a great opportunity to bring those two together.
And is this based let's talk about expanding. Is the initiative only based in Cleveland, or can we do it throughout Ohio?
So currently it can be replicated throughout Ohio, but I would like to take it in stages. So based on how much response we get, I would like to create a roadmap that would take us down looking at regions of multiple listing services. So our multiple listing service is huge. Like we're like the whole top corner of the state. So definitely that is an open area that I can move into quickly. The rest, I would really like to be more strategic and make sure that we're giving the right resources and the right attention to bring everyone on appropriately. But we can go statewide currently with having the Trumbull County Land Bank. We're obviously servicing Trumbull County. I live in Portage County, so I'm servicing Portage County. And then we are serving Cuyahoga and then some of the counties that are just outside of Cuyahoga as well currently. But we're, like I said, open to, with the right plan in place, moving statewide. That's the goal.
Can you talk about how the GAP grant works through the Cuyahoga County Land Bank? They're wanting to know about the requirements and would it work for new developers or home builders?
I'll give you the short version. The first thing one should do is go to the website. And if you go to our website, there's a drop-down box that will give you all the detail. But at a 10,000 foot level, basically the way it works, it's a program that is designed for experienced builders with respect to new construction. So the threshold is, I believe you have to have built, I think it's 3 homes in the last, I think 3 to 5 homes in the last 3 years. I don't remember exactly what the number is, but you have to have built a home in the last couple of years. If that's the case, essentially, if you identify and have control over a property in what we call the emerging area, the emerging area is defined basically by a map that we have on the website. You plug in the address, it'll tell you it's the emerging area. What I can tell you basically what it is not, the emerging area are not the areas that don't need a government subsidy. It's not Tremont, it's not Ohio, the hot part of Ohio City, it's not the hot part of Detroit Shoreway, it's not Westlake, it's the other areas in effect. But if your property is located in the emerging area, and you submit to us proof that you have site control that can be demonstrated by, purchase, ownership or an option or something similar. You give us a pro forma that makes sense, and you say, hey, we have a gap. We may fund you up to $45,000 per property. We may fund you $45,000 per property. When we fund you is when you get to, assuming this is all pursuant to agreements, when we provide you the up to $45,000 is when you get to 75% done. So what does it really mean? It means that let's say you got a property, happens to be an emerging area, you give us a pro forma, you show us you got site control, and we decide we want to support what you're doing. Basically, when you get to 75%, you call us, we're going to come and show up. We're going to say, yeah, it looks like you're at 75%. We're then going to write you a check for up to $45,000. The reason we would do something as crazy as that is because we basically want to stimulate development in certain areas. And that's how we go about doing that. It's competitive. Applications, I believe, are due mid-May. We got about 1.2 million available to fund this round. So if you're interested, certainly, collect information from our website and submit the necessary paperwork.
Thanks, Dennis.
You're welcome.
I lost some questions. Keep sharing your questions. We have tons of time in here, but also if you have more questions later, contact info is going out. We're really excited to share this. Will branches work with a nonprofit that is not a CDC?
Very possible, depends on what kind of nonprofit it is and if it makes sense for your mission and for our mission. And as long as we're not crossing any legal issues or barriers, definitely worth exploring.
And then what's the average salary for an agent?
So I can't speak to what the agents are making at the CDCs because this is part of their other positions. But for us, what we have found to be the right number to bring in quality agents on our staff has been around the 45,000 mark with benefits. So that is the key. We tried it as just a flat hourly as a contract person in the beginning. And that was another struggle in our staffing model, but we found offering a true salary package with benefits was the best way for us to go to staff that. You know, agents don't typically have benefits. So if someone's looking to shift into this kind of a model, it may be for the need of benefits.
Okay. Do you have an in-house title company? Or do you have a partnership with any?
I think each of our agencies have existing relationships with title companies just from their history of work and what they've done. And then we're constantly building new relationships, but we'd like to provide some different options for our clients to choose from, but truly it's up to the buyer and seller who they want to use. We would not lead somebody other than if we know of a title company that maybe we've had a bad transaction with to say, you know, tread lightly, you know, use caution. But for the most part, title companies have been pretty good.
Did you have anything you wanted to add, William or Dennis, from your perspective?
No, other than I agree with Sonya in terms of there's a certain amount of continuity. If you tend to use the same entity, we tend to use Everest title often, but we certainly use other ones as well.
Yeah, same. We have our preferred title company. We've used Everest. We use Surety Title here in Cleveland, but like Sonya said, it's essentially up to the buyer mostly to pick their title company. But you know, it could vary between the transaction, but generally the buyer was select.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. How many closings does branches average in a month and a year?
This is a hard question to answer, so it depends on how staffed we are. So just a little bit of context, I was holding a couple different positions. I was our director of financial counseling for our senior programs for a lot of years, and just as of August have shifted 100% into real estate. And so that's changed things a bit because I was our only agent for a long time. But it's been about 20 transactions since we've launched the model a year, and that's been slow. It takes time to bring new agents on. Many of the agents you just seen on our thing are, like I said, Landon is brand new as of March 20th in Trumbull County. He just passed his exam. Metro West is just in the last quarter of last year, but they've had, you know, about 5 transactions, I think, altogether, and several in the pipeline now. So it's been a growing, evolving process. But when we had a couple agents on staff in 2016, I'm sorry, was the year that we kind of had a staffing model put together. We did close 87 deals that year. So that was our biggest year, and probably where we hope to be and where we think we could be again by the end of this year.
Unmute. We've only been doing this for a year. I know, I noticed certain CDCs own vacant property in emerging areas. Is it possible to purchase these properties through those CDCs? And if so, how would I go about doing that?
Is that directed to me? Oh, sorry. Who is that directed to, Lisa?
I will direct it to whoever wants to take that. You both kind of jumped.
Sure. I mean, everything in life is negotiable, right? But generally, most CDCs, we do our strategic plans. And if it falls within our plans, you know, obviously we'll hold on to those parcels, those properties. because we have development plans for them. You know, very similar to, you know, if you were going through the land bank for the grant model, I mean, we want to see some type of development plan. You know, we wouldn't just sell properties just for the sake of someone owning them. You know, we would want to know, you know, what they were going to be used for, what the, like, again, what the development plan was, you know, the history of the entity that would be purchasing them. You know, we wouldn't just generally just sell them to anyone. Generally, we're holding them for a purpose.
Yeah, our position is very, at the county land bank, our position is very similar. You know, we want to see that there really is some intention and some capability around doing a development.
So reach out to the CDC and talk to them and then have a conversation is what I'm hearing it kind of boil down to.
Mm-hmm.
How do organizations become a CDC? Is there a certain criteria to qualify or to get a certification for the org to be a CDC? Sonya, I don't know if you have an actual definition, but I can, okay. The Ohio CDC definition, Ohio does not have a legal definition. A couple states do, but we are not one of them. And so from Ohio CDC Association's perspective, we define a CDC pretty broadly as an organization that does work generally place-based in one of 5 bucket areas at least, which affordable housing, food access, community engagement, community economic development, and financial empowerment for low to moderate income communities, right? And so I think the person that asked this question, I do believe you are a member of Ohio CDC. So I think it comes down to, if you're interested in this program, is where I'm kind of going with this question. That's what housing work are you doing, and do you own some property, right? Is that more or less, and are you trying to help homeowners? So reach out to Sonya. If anyone wants to add to that, that's kind of what I'm inferring from that question.
Yeah, I would agree. Reach out and let's talk through how the model could work.
Great. I see a lull in questions, which is fine. We intentionally built in almost too much time because we didn't want any questions to go unasked. So while we pause for a minute and let people, maybe you've been sitting on one and you're not sure or whatever, there are no stupid questions, right? I want to give an opportunity for maybe anybody, William, Dennis, Sonya, if you want to throw in any sort of final thoughts. This came to me, I didn't say it when I was talking earlier. Notes of
Well, you know, I'll jump in. I mean, it's real simple, you know, in a lot of respects. You know, it's economic. I mean, you know, just break it down. Saving money is a good thing, or making money is a good thing in many cases. You know, even if you're not into the mission, you're not into the feeling good part of it, from our standpoint, we're able to save money. So there's a huge competitive advantage in dealing with branches versus other real estate agents. So if you have money to waste, go with someone else. If you want to save money or make money, go with branches.
I don't know what else to say after that.
Right. If you have money to waste, go with someone else.
I think I would add, if any of you are HUD agencies, we have had very clear response from both HUD and the Ohio Division of Real Estate on how we could do both without having any issues in either area. So Esop is a HUD approved housing counseling agency. And as long as we don't, as branches, you know, come to the classes and say, use branches real estate, which we would never do anyway, then we're okay. As long as they are making sure they are giving out the option to choose whoever they want. And honestly, when we do come in and give the perspective from how to work with a real estate agent piece of the class. We really want to teach people how to interview and engage with any real estate company and give them the tools to make the decision that's best for them. So we do not try to steer people. And on the other side with the division, they had some rules that we had to follow around boards and placement on the board. And also, again, I can't, as the real estate broker or any of the agents, sign any certificate for homebuyer education. So those kinds of things. But all of that has been worked out and has been worked out for several years. So we know what we can and can't do. It would never put anyone in jeopardy.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add. I think we, Dennis and Sonya pretty much summarized everything. But again, if you're interested, just reach out if you have questions about anything, whether it's from the land bank perspective, CDC perspective, the agent perspective, the broker perspective. I mean, we could hopefully answer any questions that you have and take the necessary steps to get everybody involved. However, we could make it happen.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to take this moment and try to give you back 15 minutes of your day. But before we fully close up, I want to thank William and Dennis and Sonya and each and every one of you for hanging out with us for an hour 15. I hope it was useful for you. I know I learned a lot. I feel pretty excited. And I will be sending the recording and some resources and some stuff out today, tomorrow. Anything could happen. But I want to, as a final note, just encourage you. It looked like most of you are experiencing sun, except for Cincinnati right now. I'm really sorry. But it's maybe warmer. So if you can get a chance to go outside, stretch a little bit, it'll keep you going strong. And I hope you all have a fantastic rest of the day and the week, and we'll be in touch. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.